Hi there, this is Rishabh and I welcome you to yet another video in the Python series. So in this video we are going to talk about an important concept called as classes in Python. So yes, this is the beginning of object-oriented programming, or OOPS. So let's get started. So introduction to classes. First of all, what exactly are classes? Well, as you might have seen already, because we have covered the primitive types, we have covered the container types in Python, but none of them closely resemble the kind of objects which we have to deal with in the day-to-day life. So for example, if I have to take an example of, let's say, a school, how do you represent a school using Python? We have absolutely no idea. We will have to take a lot of variables because a school may have different classes, and different classes may have different entities. For example, there can be teachers, there can be students, and let's say I have to represent a student. Then also I will need a lot of variables. I need to capture the name of the student. I need to capture, let's say, some kind of an ID, which is going to uniquely identify my student. I need to capture what grade the student is in, what are the different subjects which they read, what is the attendance of the student, and a whole lot of different variables will be required. And if I need so many variables for a single student, imagine that if let's say there are thousands of students in a school, how many variables shall I need? So that becomes a problem. So which means that we cannot use primitive types or the containers if we have to represent the real world objects in Python. So that is where classes come into picture. Classes basically help us to create blueprints for new types of data. Here, if I have to say, using classes, we can actually represent, let's say, a student or a class or a school or any object which is available to you in the real world. How exactly that can be done? Well, that is what we are going to discuss in this video, right? So blueprint by which is defined by a class is manifested in the form of an object, right? So using the class, I will declare that how exactly a student should look like. That is the blueprint of the student. Or how exactly a school should look like, or the blueprint of the school. And then I'll be creating the objects from that class, like using that blueprint. What it means is, let's say we define, so yeah, let's look at this example which is given here. So let's say class is the man. Let's say we are defining the man class, which means we want to tell that how exactly a man should look like. What are the different attributes which define a man? So here we have name, like a man would have a name, then there must be an age also, right? Then some profession, then some hobbies, and so on. Well, these might not be the best attributes to define a man, but what I'm trying to convey is that once you know that these are the attributes which can define a man, then a class can help you create that blueprint. And we will see an example shortly. And now let's say we have to actually create a man using that blueprint, then we have to create an object which belongs to that specific class, right? So for example, here Jack is the object of type man, and here we can see that name is Jack, then age is 30, profession is programming, and hobby is traveling, right? So in this way, objects will capture the real information about a real physical object, whereas class defines what should an object look like. So classes can also define what all operations are allowed on an object. So let's say if you want to perform some operation on an object. So for example, a man can speak, and there are other examples. A man can grow. We can increment the age of the person. So it's like we are changing the state of the object in some way or the other, right? Similarly, a man can travel. A man can start from one place, go to the other place. Similarly, man can speak, like they can read a piece of text and send it to the speakers. So speak as in like in computer terms, maybe they are using the speaker to, let's say, speak some kind of text. So in this way, there can be different operations which are associated with the object, right? So in this way, like objects are said to have states and behaviors. So states are defined by what all instance variables are there, and behaviors are defined by what all instance methods are there, right? And in this video, we are going to create our own classes in Python. So this is a very, very important concept, classes in Python, because in almost all the real world applications, this is what we are going to use. So let us just go ahead. First of all, let me just get rid of this. Yes, now it looks better. Let me just create what should we call it? Let me just call it car.py. Let us just start defining a car class. And I actually took some reference. Let me just go ahead and yeah. So here you can see how to represent a car in Python. Here we can see that, so this is the table of contents. So there are different variables, as I mentioned, like car make and model, car color, then car engine size, car mileage, car price, and there can be n other factors. So this is not a complete list. There can be other attributes which are associated with the car. So like if I have to take an example, whether a car is, let's say, a petrol car or a diesel car, meaning what is the fuel type, right? And what other attributes could be there? So color we have already covered. What is the capacity of the car, like how many passengers can sit in the car, and so on. Now here, as you can see that raw variables are used, right? So we are not going to use these raw variables. We are simply going to just take some inspiration from what all variables are being used here, and we will create a car class. And I'll tell you that how exactly we can represent a class with the represent a car with the help of classes. Awesome. So let us first look at the syntax, like how exactly the syntax looks like. So this is a reserved keyword. Class is a reserved keyword in Python. I think I forgot to talk about reserved keywords in the past, but reserved keywords are the keywords which are reserved by a language, and we shouldn't use them to assign our own values, right? For example, if, else, etc. So because Python actually interprets them in a certain way, which is predefined in the language. So class car, or if I have to tell you the syntax first, then it will look something like this. Class name, right? And then there is a special function called as init. This function is called whenever we create an object belonging to this class. So if there is any kind of initialization, like any initial data which we want to provide to this object, this is the place to do. And this is also the place where we can define all the instance variables which are available in this specific class, right? So let me just go ahead. Let me just write, this is class car, and in the init I'll be using all these. So for example, car make. Let me simply write make is one of the things, and then model is one of the things, and then the color is another attribute. Okay, and the size of the engine, mileage, and price. So let me just keep it very simple. Let me only have price. So what I can do is, so whenever somebody creates an object belonging to this car class, they will have to provide me all these details, right? They will have to provide me the make, the model, the color, and the price. So let me actually remove make also to keep only three variables, right? What is the model of the car, what is the color of the car, and what is the price of the car. So whenever somebody wants to create an object belonging to this class, they will have to provide me three things. One is model, one is color, and the third one is price, right? So I'll have to use like this method wherein, so init method is the one which is called whenever a new object is created, and price. Self is a special kind of, I would say, special variable in Python, which refers to the class itself, like which will refer to the like object itself basically. So it's an identity kind of, you can call it an identity kind of a variable, right? Now self.model equals model, we are assigning self.color equals color, and self.price equals price. So this is a very basic class. This is a very basic class. We have just defined a new structure altogether, a new data type altogether, that is car, and it has three attributes. Three attributes are model, color, and price. So these are the three attributes which are describing this new data type. Like, so whenever I want to create a car, I will need to provide these three attributes, which is the model, the color, and the price. Now let us just go ahead and try to compile this. Let me go ahead, video number 18 and car.py. Cool, it has compiled. Let me go ahead and see whether something got created in video number 18. No, nothing got created. Cool. Now let's do something. So here we haven't talked about module, so I won't be using some module related syntax. So let me simply say car equals car. So this is how we create an object. So if you remember, if I had to create a number or a list, for example, this was the syntax. Like I used to use this square brackets, right? Similarly, I could do this as well. I could use the list function if I had to create a list. Similarly, because car is the class which is defined by me, so I will be using this syntax, and there are three things which I need to pass. Self I don't need to pass, but I need to pass the model, the color, and the price. So let me just copy paste the values. Like model can be this. So okay, so yeah, this is going to be a string, right? And then we can have the color could be red or white, we can pass anything. Price also I think we should be able to pass. So let's make this as a white car, and price we can pass something like 7,000,007 lakhs. Cool. So the object has been created, right? Meaning, instead of having to write different variables to define a single car, now it is very easy for you. You can simply call this car class and you can pass in the variables and you get a car object. So car object has been created for me. Now let's see, whenever I have to print something about this car, let's say, okay, let me not call this as a car, because car is more of an abstract idea. Let me just call this as Swift Desire. So this is the real car, right? I mean, when I say car, you don't get any idea in your mind that what is it, what car is it that I'm talking about, right? I'll have to specify that I'm talking about, let's say, Swift Desire in this specific scenario, or let's say if I'm talking about some Hyundai i10. So then you can create an image in your mind. Just by saying a car, you won't get any idea, because that is just a blueprint. The real objects are the manifestations of that blueprint. Like here you can see that all the attributes which are defined by the car class, like this object will need to have all those attributes, right? So now let's try to print the information Swift Desire dot model, right? Similarly, I can print Swift Desire dot price also, right? Now similarly, let's say if I want to create a new car, let's say I want to create the i20 car. How can I do that? I'll say car, I'll say i20 is the model, then let's say I'm saying this is black in color, then let's say its price is also 7 lakhs, right? Now you can see that I don't have to again go and define new variables, because I can use this structure which I have created, this new data type which I have created, and I can create objects in just one line of code, just the way I used to I can say that define any kind of Python object so far, like the way I would create some container objects like a list or a dictionary. So things have become slightly easier for me with the help of classes. So now I can do print, let's say i20 dot color, and similarly I can do a print i20 dot price. Cool. Let me just save both of these. Let me just try to run this code now. So this is video 18 car.py. Yeah, as you can see that this information has been printed successfully on my screen. That is the model of the car, the price, again the model of the car, and the price. So similarly, we will learn how to model different things. We will talk about behaviors also. Currently we have just created a very simple class and it has got some attributes and nothing else, right? So similarly, we can create Python classes to represent all the different ideas which are available around us. Like we can look around, we can see that we are working on a laptop. So we can think about how exactly can I describe a laptop? What are the different attributes which are needed if I want to describe a laptop? Similarly, like I'm using the camera. So what are the different attributes which are required if I want to represent a camera? For example, whether the camera is a web camera, or whether it's some kind of a DSLR, or whether I'm using some different kind of a camera, right? And similarly, if I'm using, let's say, something else, like I'm using a mobile phone, what are the different attributes which are required if I want to represent a mobile phone? So remember that classes are going to be everywhere. Like whenever you are going to do any kind of real world programming, you are going to face classes there. So it's important to learn classes in the best possible fashion you can, right? So this was just a quick introduction, a basic introduction to classes. So in the coming videos, we will talk about classes in much more detail. Stay tuned and thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.